Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Bruce Hallett, and I serve as the program chair for the Chamber's Historic St. Augustine Area Council. On behalf of the entire Historic Council and the St. Johns County Chamber of Commerce, welcome. Joining me today is Kathy Newman, Economic Development Manager at the St. Johns County Chamber of Commerce. She'll be working in the background, pulling the strings and making sure that we have everybody's face that's communicating as a prominent space throughout the Zoom meeting. She and the Historic Board will be your host. The Historic Council Board consists of Lori Brindell, Cecile Nussbaum, Patty McRoberts, and Memory Hopkins. Again, on behalf of the Historic Area Board, welcome. Today we welcome St. Augustine Police Chief Barry Fox. If you're watching this event live, please use the chat button at the bottom of your screen to submit questions. Towards the end of the discussion, if we have some extra time, we'll submit those questions to Chief Fox to address. And as you are in the meeting, please have your mute button in order to keep any background noise from interfering with the broadcast. We have an agenda, and we'll start with a public policy note. The St. Johns County Chamber of Commerce Public Policy Committee is currently drafting a local legislative agenda for 2021. This agenda is in accordance with the organization's legislative priorities and needs throughout the Northeast Florida area. Once drafted, it can be found at the website. That's www.sjcchamber.com. For more information, you can contact Bob Porter, Vice President of Public Policy, at bob.porter@sjcchamber.com. Cecile, would you like to do some announcements?
Sure, I'd love to do some announcements. Welcome, everyone. And as you know, Congress recently passed a new CARES Act to help businesses, families, and individuals cope with economic impacts resulting from the coronavirus. The Chamber emailed members with the highlights of the bill over the holidays. The Chamber's recording and will circulate Chamber conversations with more guidance on available loans, emergency funding, and unemployment benefits. We encourage you to watch your email for additional communications and to follow the Chamber on social media. You can also find information posted on the Chamber's website about the new pandemic relief package and other resources to assist your business. And that's at the Chamber website, which is sjcchamber.com. That's sjcchamber.com. Another announcement is FPL has begun accepting applications for small businesses to receive bill credits through FPL's Main Street Recovery Credit Program. In response to COVID-19, FPL has offered a range of relief options for all customers struggling with their electric bills. Small businesses in FPL's service area that are eligible for the program can receive a monthly 10% credit on their electric bill through the end of 2021. And to apply for this, you can go to www.fpl.com/Main Street Recovery. And one more time, that web address is www.fpl.com/Main Street Recovery.com. And I believe we might have that also on the Chamber website as well. If Kathy, if you'll just nod your head. Great. Yeah. Okay. This information will be also on the Chamber website. Thank you.
I actually have an announcement as well. The Epicenter Alliance, Albert Silas sent me in a great little blurb about it. You might want to know what Epicenter Alliance is. It's an alliance of a dozen nonprofits who are planning to build a performing arts center in St. Augustine. The Epicenter Alliance wants your input. It's very important. The more input they get, the better decisions they can make. And here's a screenshot of what it's tentatively going to look like. The St. Johns County Tourist Development Council has identified as a strategic opportunity adding a civic performing arts center in St. Augustine. In 2019, the TDC commissioned a market and feasibility study, which included that the development of a performing arts center in St. Augustine will generate significant economic and fiscal impacts, both in terms of operation and construction. The Epicenter Alliance was then established as a nonprofit and is now working with Verade, oh, hope I didn't butcher that, Verard strategic funding to develop its business plan and capital campaign. They expect to raise 40 to 50 million regionally and nationally and build the center within the next 5 years. The center will be a transformative world-class attraction and a financially self-sustaining and collaborative arts destination supporting over 100 new jobs. That's awesome. The Alliance wants to hear from local business leaders regarding your preferences for the center's location, size, branding, impact, etc., before they make their final plans. So please contact Albert Silas, president of the Epicenter Alliance, either at 904-501-4336, or you can email asyeles@gmail.com. Again, asyeles@gmail.com for more information, to offer your perspective or to request a meeting or presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori and Cecile. On to Chief Fox. As a member of St. Johns County, as a resident of St. Johns County since 1979, Chief Fox has been a member of the St. Augustine Police Department for 25 years. He began as a patrolman in April 1993 and has progressively risen in rank to his current responsibilities as Chief of Police. Chief Fox is a graduate of St. Joseph's Academy, St. Johns River Community College, and the University of North Florida. In 2016, Fox graduated from the FBI's National Academy. Chief Fox also contributes to his community as a volunteer assistant football coach for St. John's Academy. Chief Fox, thank you so much. You have participated in numerous morning events with the Historic Council, and it's good to have you this morning on Zoom. Would you like to start by a few opening comments?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Actually, I was actually born in Palaca. The 1979 thing, from 68 to 79, I'm actually a military dependent. So my father was in the military and I was moving around the world with him. So I've always been a resident of St. Johns County. I grew up on my grandfather owned a big farm out in Hastings. So that's where I actually come from, is Hastings. But I've been here 28 years now. I love this community. There's very few people, hopefully a lot of people, but I feel like very few people can actually say that at the end of their career, they've done exactly what fulfilled them. And I have done exactly what fulfills me, and that is serving this community, because I absolutely love it. I love everything about it. And it's an amazing community, and to watch it where it was in 1979 when I moved back to what it is now, is just, it's fantastic. But it does come with a lot of challenges. And I think we all see those challenges now in reference to sustainability and traffic and infrastructure issues that we're going to be going through in the near future. But got into law enforcement. I don't think I make it a big secret. I got into law enforcement because I have 3 other brothers, and we're split right down the middle in reference to black and white. So there's 50% of us are on one side and 50% of us are on the other. So got into that. I've always, my entire career has been spent right here in St. Augustine. I'm not a transplant from another department. I grew up or I matured through my law enforcement career, understanding this community and understanding what they needed, not coming in from another community trying to bring other ideas in. And hopefully I've done a good job. I'm now at the time where I'm making some decisions in the future in reference to moving on, but still serving this community. And come October 1st, I will no longer be the chief. Now, when I actually go seems to be a little disputed right now because there's some projects that I've asked to get completed and all for the department that may extend it a couple months here or there. But October 1st, I will no longer be the chief. I promise you. That's my drop dead date. So I hate it, but I've got to. I had my family late in life, and I have the opportunity to spend more time with my kids, and it just became that important to me. Like today, when I get off this meeting, I have one more meeting. I'm going to get my 9-year-old son, and we're driving to Boone, North Carolina, so we can go snow tubing with, those are the things that I've been missing for the last 9-15 years with my children. And I just can't miss those anymore. And I love this community. I'm going to keep serving it in one function or another, but my personality causes me to just kind of be here all the time. And I need to kind of back away from that, recognize my shortcoming in that area and kind of back away for the sake of my family. So, but I've got a list of questions here, and I'd like to just can we open it up so that they can be asked in an order of importance through the group, or do you want me to just touch on these things one at a time?
Let's kind of go down that list one at a time. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. And I think it's a blessing that you can recognize that you have the opportunity to spend time with your family. That's a remarkable choice that you're making. Can we start with a discussion about how the City of St. Augustine Police Department is handling body cameras?
Body cameras. I will. And I want to get out to the group real quick. About 9 months ago, this article came out in the St. Augustine Record that said that and I won't speak for anybody else, but it basically said that Chief Fox was against body cameras. And that is not at all true. That story was not written in accordance to how it occurred. Let me just put it like that, okay? But if you go back and read my comment, you'll read a comment that says, when one of us go, all of us go. And my position about body cameras is it's never been about if we go, just about when. And at the time that I last researched body cameras, the overhead expense of it in reference to the storage was so outrageous that I could not bring myself to ask for that kind of a monetary commitment for a system that my community at the time was not saying I needed. So as it went down the road, the manufacturer of these cameras saw that the storage was the issue with deploying these cameras. There was the biggest expense. So they improved upon storage, went to some cloud products and made it a much easier thing. So really the expense came way down. And so when it came up in June and we reached out and researched it again, we found that the expense had come way down. My initial opposition to the body camera process under the old ideology of what I had learned beforehand was I did not feel comfortable asking my city to spend $1 million a year on my system from my citizens' tax money. And then the St. Johns County doing the same expense on my citizens who also pay county taxes and having my citizens pay for the same system twice. So it was always, once the county goes, then we'll piggyback the cameras because the storage will be there and we'll buy the storage at one time for all the cameras. And then the expense would just be the cameras that was the initial process. But when Commissioner Freeman asked me to look back into it, they had come to a cloud resolution to the storage problem, and it really just became a cost per camera event. So the price had come way down. It's 1.5 million for 10 years. A big ask, but not as big as other departments at the time I first initially looked at it. It was close to $1 million a year for a department my size. $1 million a year. Now it's 1.5 over a 10-year contract. That's the difference in the financial obligation to it. So we rolled the cameras out the first week of December. The cameras by policy, when an officer is on duty, the cameras are always in a standby mode. When an officer is dispatched to a call, our policy requires that the cameras be turned on. Now there's a learning curve. This is a new tool, so some of the officers are forgetting and we're remembering a little later and turn them on. With these cameras, there's this particular camera, there's two functions that are very important. One of them being that if an officer draws his firearm from his holster, the camera will automatically come on if it wasn't already on. Example, my St. George Street officer is walking down the street. He turns the corner of a building, sees a gentleman with a gun, pulls his weapon. That camera will automatically come on. It has a 30-second buffer built into it. So it's always every 30 seconds, it's writing over itself. So if he hasn't automatically turned his camera on, when he draws his firearm, it will capture the previous 30 seconds without audio and then immediately start recording audio and video. Now the function with the taser is that if a taser is drawn, every camera within 50 feet will automatically turn on of that officer. So if for some reason an officer is caught off guard and has to pull his weapon or his taser and he's not on a call, he's just out doing a building check, if either one of those actions have to occur before he's able to reach up and turn on his camera, because I don't want my officers, the reason why we bought that function is because I don't want my officers concentrating on a lethal encounter, turn the corner and run into a man with a gun, concentrating on having to reach up and turn his camera on first. So we bought those functions so that if that were to occur, the camera will automatically come on if they have to draw their taser or draw their firearm. So if those things occur, the camera will automatically come on. And if they're dispatched to a call, they will automatically come on. If they have a consensual encounter that starts to go bad with someone, then they'll reach up and turn it on. And the video is kept according to public law. So if at any time you ever want to see any of the videos, you're more than welcome to make a public records request and we'll get those out to you. But I want to get to any specific question about the cameras.
Kathy, has anybody submitted any specific questions about?
Don't have any in the chat at this moment.
We can wait a minute for the about 30 seconds if anybody in the group has a specific question for Chief Fox about those body cameras. Let's move on to Chief Fox panhandling and issues downtown St. George Street, stoplights, things of that nature.
So the panhandling ordinance that we put into place is working well, but it was not a fix-all, and we realized that there are it's a distance-based ordinance from certain things such as business ingress and egress. So it's not a fix-all. And the question becomes from some of the business owners, because we have some little hot spots, the south end of St. George Street, just there north of King Street, up around Hippolyta in certain areas on St. George Street. And the problem with it is that the ordinance defines a distance-based process from the ingress and egress point of a business. And due to the fact of enforcement and education to the actual panhandlers, they've actually figured out where they can actually be legally and be within the lawful guidelines of the ordinance. So we are still working on that, and there's still some more communication in reference to, can we extend those distance parameters? Are there other things that we can do? From a law enforcement side, we have seen over the years, because I have been dealing with this particular issue since 1998, when I took over the lead on the entertainer issue. I don't know if anybody in the room was even here for the entertainer issue. So, you know, on one Sunday back in 1998, there were 90 different entertainers or vendors that were set up on St. George Street from King Street to Orange Street. 90 different ones. And it had really created a different problem. And, you know, we passed an ordinance working with a constitutional lawyer who is very good, Michael Kahn. And we called him back in when we got to this, when the Tampa district threw out the panhandling ordinances that were pretty prevalent across the nation, when it got caught up in it got caught up in a different argument. The argument that the panhandling ordinance got lost in was based on a First Amendment issue out of the Midwest, and it just kind of got caught up in that, and it fell all across the state and the nation. The ordinance that was prevalent. So we brought Michael Kahn back in to write a new ordinance, and one of the very first things he said to me is that, number one, you got to build your record of how this is impacting your community, and number two, you have to understand you can't throw a blanket. You just can't blanket an area. You have to, it's going to have to be distance based. And he wrote the ordinance, and to a great degree, that ordinance has been successful. But we still have some problem areas such as the south end of St. George Street, and we try to stay on top of that. But it's not. I understand it. We gotta find more tools, because the problem is pretty significant. And the concern I have is that the environment that we're living in now, the social and the COVID and everything else, may continue to drive our homeless population increase, which will continue to drive people having to fall upon these actions to survive. So it's a real concern that I have in reference to the increase and what we're dealing with socially, as to whether this problem is going to continue to grow. And me personally, I feel like uncomfortably, I feel like there's a possibility that we are going to see this thing grow. So we do need to continue to reach out and continue to touch this ordinance and continue to make sure that we're staying on top of the new cases and case law that comes out, so that we can make sure that we're doing everything we can in reference to keeping the quality of life in the downtown area and across the city in a good health. Now, the particular intersection ordinance that a lot of you may have heard that involved St. Johns County that was recently lost was a state law. And that state law had the words political or commercial written into it. And that's the reason why it was lost. We have a city ordinance in reference to intersections that does not concern itself with the type of speech. It is defendable, and we still enforce ours, and ours is still in place. So when we get those calls in reference to panhandlers on the street corners or in the traffic, we're still able to enforce that ordinance, because we did not have the language in them that the state law had in them. So we're still able to enforce our ordinance on that.
So that's just within the city limits.
Yes, sir. Just inside the city limits.
Okay, that's good to know. Lori Brendel had a question about no trespassing documents. Lori, would you like to pitch that to Chief Fox? I think you're probably better to do that than me. Still out there, Lori?
Yes, I actually filled that out for my business a couple of years ago because every now and then we get some different characters on property, and they actually come into the branch as well and sit in the lobby and strike up conversations with the members. So one of your officers expressed that I needed to fill out one of those, but I only did it that 1 year. Is this something that I need to do on an ongoing basis?
The trespass warnings are good for 365 days. You should be getting contacted by an officer soon because we are pulling out all the ones that are going void now, and we're recontacting the businesses to make sure. And the reason why we do it every year is to stay solid in the jurisdictional and criminal side of it, but also, and this won't be surprising to y'all, but a lot of businesses turn in a year. So we like to go back and make sure that we have the proper business owner and contact on the paperwork when we do the enforcement. So you should be getting contacted soon about refilling that particular trespass warning out. It's a yearly process.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's on a calendar year basis, Chief, or is it by the date that the business owner signs it, a year from now?
12 months from the date that the business owner signs it. So we pull them out and have officers go down and recontact.
Okay.
And it's a very simple process. We just get it on file and punch it into the computer so that when we respond to a call there, it shows that there's a trespass warning authorization on file.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So how has policing in our city changed during, let's say, February? Not just COVID, but demonstrations that have happened throughout the spring and the summer?
So for COVID, I was at a Responsible Hospitality Institute seminar out in Seattle at the end of February as COVID really started to become a thing in the United States. And I called back from Seattle and said to my people here, I said, listen, I don't know what's going on with this COVID thing. I don't really understand it, but it's really becoming an issue out here. I mean, there are some things going on out here in Seattle in reference to safety protocols that I feel like we kind of need to get in front of, because Miami, I think it was like during that 4-day stay that I was in Seattle, Miami started reporting their first initial cases. So my staff here went back, they got the alcohol sanitation units set up at the front doors, and we took a couple extra precautions early on. So we've been real good through the COVID issue. So for enforcement, it was kind of a very difficult thing for us. We went into COVID and we wanted to respect the wishes of everybody in reference to masks and distance-based protocols. But the problem was then we immediately entered into a protest period, a civil unrest period, where masks and social distancing became a very heavy load for law enforcement to do their job. Because number one, we were in a civil unrest situation where we needed to be clearly understood when we spoke in front of these crowds. And we were clearly in a situation where social distancing was not going to be an option for us. And I think most of y'all saw over the last 8 months, social distancing at our protest was just not, it didn't occur. So I always back my officers in reference to, if you want to wear the mask, wear the mask. I encourage you to wear the mask. But if you're committed to the fact that you want to make sure that you're clearly understood and heard during these events, then I support you in not wearing the mask, and we'll take care of you the best we can. But the number one thing we have to do is we have to take care of our community. We have to protect our community. We cannot control and manage these events from 6 feet. It wasn't an option for us. So we got through it. It really hasn't affected the way we do policing. Probably the only issue that we've come across is people worried about us becoming mask police and fielding calls where people wanted us to go take an action against a business because the business was operating within the state guidelines from their state regulatory offices and not doing what that particular individual felt they needed to be doing. That's been the biggest challenge for us, is trying to find the middle ground in reference to the split in the community in reference to mask and no masks. So we've really had to get on the fence in reference to, listen, these are the guidelines the state requires. These are the guidelines the regulatory institutions are saying these businesses can work under. We understand your concern. We don't want to be callous to people's concerns, because we're not, but at the same time, these businesses had a right by their regulatory agencies to operate in the manner that we did. Now, we did stay on top of people and stay in communication. And I was out often walking through the downtown area, because I'm sure you know that, the restaurants and the alcohol serving establishments were really the ones that came under severe criticism. And I stayed in communication with them the entire COVID process. And they were all operating within those guidelines, doing the best they could. Some businesses looked like it was worse than what it really was. But I assure you, I was out and I had a team of people out just making sure that those businesses were trying to conduct business within the guidelines of the regulatory agencies. If I'm saying that correctly, if everybody understands what I mean. So, but it has been very trying for the businesses, but and I don't own a business downtown, but from what I've seen in the last 3 months, the businesses seem to be doing all right, staying healthy, or at least on their feet for the most part, I believe.
Do we have any online business owners that want to comment about how they're handling the face mask in their particular business? We can move on if we don't have any comments.
And Bruce, I'd like to just address real quick. I forgot. The St. Augustine Police Department supports its business community in this manner. If a business requests masks inside their business and someone gives them a problem, you call the St. Augustine Police Department. We come down and make sure that they understand the business requires masks. Either you put a mask on or please exit the business. But we don't go in and go, you need to be wearing a mask.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your new position is going to be? Do you feel comfortable talking about that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So the new position I'm taking is with it's with code enforcement, but I'm actually being hired to manage the STR, the short-term rental, the Airbnb issues that have come up, and the new laws and the registrations and things like that. So I'm actually being hired for that. Code enforcement comes with it because it falls under the code enforcement process. And what I'll actually be doing too is I'll also continue and take with me the conversation about the nightlife in the downtown area, because I really think that particular issue really needs to be over in the code enforcement side of the city and not from the law enforcement side of the city. It's a business. There are business issues. Now, with the nightlife and the bars specifically, there are some things that can get them in criminal trouble. But what we're discussing on the quality of life of the downtown historic area and the number of alcohol licenses and the use exceptions that are imposed on them and the manner in which some are abiding by those use exceptions and some aren't, that really belongs over in a code enforcement process and not from a law enforcement process. So the nightlife communication and the nightlife continued talks, I'm going to take with me over to that new function and get it out of the hands of law enforcement for the most part.
The chamber in the past has, when the nightlife issue came up, maybe 18 months or so ago, and Isabel might be better to talk about this, but the chamber gathered its membership and help gather ideas and concerns that the downtown businesses have. And so as you move forward in a new position, are there opportunities then for the chamber, if there are large issues that could be solved by engaging the chamber? Is that something that you'd be willing to entertain?
I'll stay engaged with the bar owners. I'll stay engaged with the chamber. I'll stay engaged, with the historic area. My intent is not to move out of any of the community meetings and groups so that I can continue to do my job and that particular job in a very a more efficient manner instead of always having law enforcement thrown at the problem. There's a lot of things law enforcement can do, but when it comes down to it, law enforcement's about law enforcement. And it's and these particular problems that we're dealing with in reference to the continued evolution of downtown and the city, the Riberia Street development, the shipyards development, those things are going to bring challenges to the city that the city right now is only built for. If they have a problem, have law enforcement go down and see what they can do with it. Well, there's a better way for us to do that. And that is through the communication, through the chambers, through the business owner meetings, and just coming to a consensus on how we want our community to continue to evolve and where we want to go with it, and continue to make sure that 9% of the businesses are not suffering because of one bad vendor within the field. And that's I guess that's the best way I can explain it.
Okay, thanks. So there were a couple of new items that the police department posted on its webpage. And one of them is, they're kind of public notices, I think, in educating the public. So one of those was traffic stop behavior. So can you tell us how the appropriate way to behave when we engage, when an officer engages us because of some sort of traffic violation?
I can. Exactly the way you've been. We don't have very many problems in reference to these things. Listen, a traffic infraction is just a notification that the officer feels that he witnessed you make an inappropriate traffic decision. It is not set in stone. When he explains it to you, he will explain to you, pay it, fight it, go to traffic school. I assure you that I am behind that whole fight it thing for the public, because here's my position to my officers. If my public says they want to go to court and fight what you think you saw in their violation, you will be there. And I mean it so much that if my officers don't show up to court to defend their position, I discipline them. That's our responsibility. Show up, state your case, let the citizen have their statement in front of the judge or the hearing officer, and then you either win it or you don't. It's not personal. But for us, the proper way is just to understand that when you're stopped, you are lawfully stopped. They will ask you for your license. They'll ask you for your insurance. They'll ask you for your registration. Have those things available. Understand the options that you have, and understand that if you decide to take that to court, which is absolutely your right, you are not offending the officers, because there are mistakes do get made, and those things need to be heard. And we're not perfect. Neither are some of our citizens, but just cooperate. If you feel like, if it's at night and you feel like that it's too dark in the area where you're being pulled over, just slow down and pull to a lighted area. You won't take offense, and just let the officer know, listen, I pulled up here because there was more light, or the roadway, there was no shoulder on the road. They're not going to take offense. Just slow down and signal to where you're going. And just limit your frustration to a degree, and understand that signing that citation is not an admission of guilt. It's just the fact that you will take care of it in one of three ways. And I encourage you that if it's ever given to you and you feel like it's given to you in a manner inappropriately, I encourage our public to take them to court. The officers are required to be there, and they take no offense if they learn a thing or two in reference to what they think they saw or how they observed the violation.
Thanks. The last topic that we have, and then Kathy, if we've got any other questions that have come in over the chat function, let me know. Another item that was posted on the department's website is safe zones for e-commerce. So can you tell us what that safe zone, first of all, is, and then where those might be located in the city?
So I'll tell you where there's only one safe zone inside the city, and it's in my side parking lot. There's some signs in the parking lot. We saw early on the evolution of online buying and meeting in parking lots and stuff. And we recognized, and we actually had one go bad at Target in the parking lot where it turned into a robbery. And so we created this safe zone here beside the police department. There's a sign, an e-commerce sign. It's a national program. We just decided to incorporate it. And the reason why we put it in the side parking lot is because we have video cameras on that particular parking lot, so we can record anything that goes on in case something goes wrong out there. And 99.9% of the time, most people are not going to show up at this police department parking lot to commit a crime. So we encourage people to utilize our side parking lot for these exchanges. But also, if you're not comfortable even in our side parking lot, you can request to meet in our lobby. Now, understand our lobby is also video and audio taped. And what we encourage in our lobby is we encourage child transfer in custody issues. We have many people that use our lobby due to the fact that it's video and audio recorded to do a transfer of children between ex-spouses, so that there's anything that may occur will be recorded, to give another layer of safety to the individuals in case that it's a bad breakup or something like that. It's in our lobby, unless it's on the weekend or after hours. There's always someone sitting there also. And so we have those two. We don't really publicize the lobby for the child exchange, but it has become widely known in the within attorneys that are dealing with these issues. So they will talk to their clients in reference to, listen, on a child custody transfer, the weekend or the Wednesday transfer, you can do it at the St. Augustine Police Department lobby. It's audio recorded and video recorded, and they can get here early, wait for the spouse to come get the child, and then they can leave and they can wait in our lobby until the individual, if there's some sort of a concern about violence or fear. And then we're always right here. So those are the two programs we have here at the police department for individuals for their safety.
We've had a question come in through the chat function, Chief. What is the protocol and repercussion to an individual that if that individual comes onto private property and threatens the property owner? Is the individual is obviously trespassing on private property?
Yes. So you have a trespassing and you have an assault, and if they follow through with the assault, you have a battery. And if someone's experiencing that, I ask them to reach out to me soon. Don't wait to a Zoom meeting to ask that question. I appreciate the question, but if you're having an issue like that, please call us now. But first and foremost, it's trespassing. Second, it's an assault. If they're threatening you and you are in fear of this individual, and it's an assault. And if they make an act or commit an act of violence on you, it becomes a battery to several degrees, depending on what's involved. But if you're experiencing that, I encourage you to. Everybody has my phone number, and I'll give it to you if you just want to talk to me. But I encourage you to get with law enforcement now if you're having those problems. We need to get ahead of those things. Our society is not what it was 20 years ago. And there used to be some things that we handled personally. And nowadays, I hate to say it, but I see this largely within our homeless population. The mental health issues that our nation faces right now are beyond comprehension. And these are things that we should not be taking lightly. You should be getting on record, at minimum, getting these issues on record with law enforcement in case you're ever put in a situation where you have to defend yourself, or if we can step in at any time. There may be some things out there where we can step in that people don't understand actually exists, such as the criteria for a restraining order and things like that. A lot of people believe that you have to actually have that physical violence and for that restraining order. It's not always so, but don't if you're thinking that act of violence has to occur, if you have to be injured before you can be protected, that's not always the case. And we want to encourage you to get these things on record if they concern you. At minimum.
We're winding down our meeting this morning. Do you have any closing remarks, Chief?
I just I thank you for having me. I love talking to you. I'm once again, I'm 3 minutes over what was allotted for you. And Bruce, you'll have to understand, when you ask me to talk, you got to control me, because I can talk all day long about this city and about this profession and about downtown. And you really got to cut me off. Cecile has no problem with it. She'll shut me down real quick. So and move me to another thing. So I love this community. I look forward to my new position and being involved and continuing to stay involved with y'all. I think we've got great things coming. I think we got some great developments coming to the city. I know some of them, the community is going to be split 50-50 and in reference to the demand on the infrastructure and the services and all. And that's where you just got to get out and be heard if you feel that strongly about it. The commission wants to hear from you. So we got, the San Sebastian is coming up soon. And it's a fairly impactful development. It's a beautiful development, but it's got its interest, and people have their points on it that need to be heard, so that the city and the city leaders can continue to make an informed decision on its future as we go forward.
How could chamber members personally get a hold of you?
Oh, so my phone number is 904-669-9030. And my email address is bfox@staugpd.com. And people tell me I'm crazy for giving out my cell phone, but it doesn't ring that often. And when it does, it's for reasons that it needs to ring. There has been one or two individuals that I've had to go, you're going to have to stop doing this. but I have gotten up in the middle of the night and gone and gotten some people from the hospital that didn't have a ride too. So, but you know, that's just me. Being in service to my community is one of the things that fulfills me. And I love being able to be there when people are in need, and being able to help them bring some closure to some issues. And I'll continue to be that way, especially when I move into this new job. It'll just be a new way of doing things for me, because now it's kind of black and white. It's against law or it's not. I'm looking forward to the challenges of solving things in a community manner, if you know what I mean. We got to come together, and the new position will cause me, I won't have as much definition on solving the problem, because, you know, in my world right now, here's the law, you're in violation or you're not. I'm looking forward to being challenged by coming up with different ways to solve the issues that we have where law and ordinance doesn't really apply. And that'll be done through discussions through groups such as yours, and through the development of new ordinances and guidelines for how we want to move forward with our community in the future.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Chief Fox. Thank you on behalf of the St. Johns County Chamber and the Historical Area Council. We appreciate your joining us this morning very much.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Our next Historic Area Council meeting will be via Zoom again, February 12th at 8:30 a.m. We will have a virtual panel discussion. The topic will be, how will the increase in minimum wage affect your business? So that's coming around very quickly. Some other chamber events that will be here soon this month: January 21st at 8:30 a.m. The Small Business and South Beaches Council has a virtual meeting. So look for emails coming from the chamber in order to register for those. January 26th at 8 a.m. the North Business Council has a virtual meeting, and they'll be featuring Jay Owen, and he's the CEO of Design Extensions. Topic is Marketing Made Simple. January 27th at 11:30 a.m. the Chamber at noon is a hybrid event featuring Jared Rice, Vice President of the PGA Tour and Executive Director of the Players Championship, with an update on the next 2021 TPC. Historical Area Board members, do we have any other comments from you before we close?
Just thank you, everybody, for being in attendance, and stay safe.
Thank you all.